Hey guys, Anthony, 4x4 Diesel. So we did our video disassembling the rear, taking the rear axles out. That was not too bad, didn't go on too much. We just did one that went for quite a while, trying to put all the rear brake shoes. That was just the driver's side back together. That's all back together. We just took a quick 5-minute break and we just sort of planned what we're going to show you the rest. So this is basically, you know, we did a quick adjustment on the shoes already, so we'll quickly run through that, putting the brake line back on and putting the rotor and the caliper and whatever back on, and then you're pretty well done, and the ABS sensor. So we'll quickly run through that. So what we did while you were having a break is your adjusters down here, obviously, and we said in the previous video, so if you haven't seen that video, go and watch that first. The adjuster thread's on the right, and I think we worked out it was up to tighten it and down to loosen it. So you can do it through the hole with the rotor on usually, but what I like to do is just bang with the finger. It's quicker. In and out here, rotor on and off, give it a bit of a wiggle. That way it sort of centralizes your shoes so that you're adjusting them, you know, top and bottom, left and right evenly, not just one side. So, you know, the rotor, we're going to disc rotor like a drum as well, you know, for the handbrake. Give it a bit of a wiggle left and right, up and down gently, just to centralize those shoes is the best way to do it. So that's all adjusted, that's ready to go on. The other thing it does pay to do, quick demonstration, okay, is just get your wire brush and give these areas here a clean, make sure there's no rust and whatever, because if your rotors aren't sitting flat, that's where you're going to get problems with the discs not sitting flat and more disc thickness variation and brakes pulsating. So it is important to sort of make sure that's clean like that. This was all done already, but we're just giving you a bit of a demonstration what you need to do, alright? So a bit of a wire brush, a bit fiddly to get in there, and then if you like, you can even use like a dirty rag that's got a bit of oily, greasy kind of stuff on it to just give it a wipe clean, to have a feel and make sure, you know, there's nothing too lumpy on the surface, and it might give a bit of corrosion protection if you use the right greasy, dirty, oily rag. Anyway, demonstration done. Now what we've done, we've set the brake caliper back in place just with one bolt at the top, because when you've got your caliper off and this brake line out, which you will see in the video, the previous video or the one before where we took it apart, you need to disconnect this brake line. It's a 10mm, you need a pipe spanner. Again, brake's very dangerous, so if you don't know what you're doing, don't touch it. That needs to quickly come out to put the flexible hose into the bracket at the top here. So we're just going to go ahead and undo that. We'll get our little pipe spanner. It's not super tight at the moment because obviously it was just going to be coming apart again. Okay, so we're just going to crack that loose. It's probably a good idea to have a rag there to catch the brake fluid, but we're just going to be really quick. We've undone that, we've taken that out, pop that in the hole, get the brake line back in, and do it up again, and that's going to lose minimal brake fluid. Remember to clean all that brake fluid up with water. So before we do that up too tight, we're going to pop our little clip back in place. There is a locating clip that goes in the brake line. Just going to make sure it's sitting in the right place. Right, so now that's locked in position. This clip goes in the top here like that. You just need something like a little, even your pair of pliers would tap it, but just to make sure that's all the way down and lock that in position. Obviously don't smack the hell of it and damage it. And whatever you do, don't forget to nip up your brake line with your pipe spanner, and probably maybe bleed your brakes, I'd say, because you're going to have air in the system here where we had it off, so it needs to be bled from the rear. That's a separate video. I'm not telling you how to bleed your brakes in this one. Plenty of other people will tell you the right and wrong ways how to do it on YouTube. We'll just concentrate on this job at the moment. So now that we've got all that fixed in position, we'll take our top bolt back out of the caliper and get that out of the way. The reason we did that is because, say you've got the correct orientation for your brake hose, which way it's twisted, otherwise, yeah, you'll have it all twisted up on the wrong side possibly, because you've generally got the caliper right off out of the way. Now that we've got that mounted back there, this won't be too far away. We'll actually just sit it right behind there like that. Now these rotors are all going to get cleaned up again anyway. Like I said, we've already adjusted the brakes, so this should just pretty well go straight on. Right, not much play side to side now, but it'll still turn without resistance, if you know what I mean. We don't like them too tight, because the tighter the shoes are in there, if you've got your dirt and dust, whatever, it just acts like sandpaper and grinds these shoes down, right? So personally, I recommend you avoid using the handbrake on flat ground as much as possible. Use it when you need to. The adjustment can be done through the hole here, depending what disc rotors you've got, if the holes line up and whatever. So in this case, the hole's up here, you know, so you'd have to spin it around here. And this hole doesn't line up that well, so it depends on the brand of rotors, what you've got, and the little flat blade in there, you find your adjuster and up or down or whatever the case may be, right? So rotors are back on here. We just gave them a quick spray to tidy this up because that's the part you're going to see, and this will get cleaned up afterwards. So once the rotor's on, we'll sit the caliper back in place. Just make sure your pads are sitting in place properly. Hold the rotor in while you slip the caliper over. This might not work out actually, because I was going to say this rotor may be thicker. It's actually a different rotor than the one that was on there, but it's all right. Just get those started by hand, of course. Those two 17 mils. I'll just find where the other one went. It's done a disappearing trick. Here it is. Okay, the one down the bottom. When it comes to brakes, you don't want to forget anything. Like I said, you know, it's really a matter of life and death. If you've got no brakes, pedal's going to go to the floor. So if you leave these bolts loose, I suppose there could be a chance the whole caliper could fall off. Did know a guy once that used to like leaving caliper bolts loose, and he used to make jokes about it. It is a serious matter. Bloke in Queensland, he got calls twice, once while I was with him, from people saying that he left the caliper bolts loose, and then it was all turned into a joke that, oh, you know, it was just a joke and all that, but I'm not sure it was a joke. I don't really know. We're not going to name anyone. People just need to be really careful. Look, again, I don't know the torque spec on these. For me, it's F-type. I think it's about 80 or 90 Newton meters again, but you know, as long as they're tight, they're not going to come loose, right? So we'll check it all again afterwards. This is just for the video. So the caliper's back on, the rotor's back on. Happy days. All we've got left now is the ABS sensor, which I might try and get you in here and have a look. Okay, so I'll just leave that sitting where it was. Okay, so you can come and have a look. This is where it goes, right? In behind here, you can see the new bearing. Right, there's your ABS sensor. So you just carefully slip it into the hole, and it's got an O-ring, which we checked and was very good, but we just put a bit of grease on it as well. Okay, so it's sitting in the hole, and there's normally a stud and a nut. We're replacing it with one of these high tensile replacement, just a Champion brand bolt. I'm not sure if this is going to work lengthwise. I think it is. I've sized it up, but we're not 100% sure, but let you know if there's a problem. Okay, so that's where the sensor goes. You can see it's just sitting there loosely. We've got to nip that up, so we're going to do that now. Okay, we'll get that little quarter drive and the short extension to do that. Actually, there's a long extension here. I think that might work. 10 mil, we'll go for this one. So you can't see what I'm doing, but you know what I'm doing. I'm just going to make sure that's in, because it is just plastic and we don't want to be tightening it up when it's not in properly. Again, just nicely by hand. Actually, I'm not really happy with that. See, it's all wobbly. I think that thread's bottomed out. I think that bolt's too long. So that's what I said, we're going to size that up. That didn't work. Okay, so we're taking that bolt back out again. Just for everyone's records, they were 16 mil long bolts. So a 16 mil long bolt is too long, so you could obviously do the usual thing. Put a nut on there and cut a couple of mil off. We can see on the end of that bolt that it was bottoming out. But what we're going to do is use the old one as planned, which we've got sitting here. Of course, there it is. It's just a stud and a nut. I think the nut was meant to come off, but it didn't. But we'll just put it back the way it was. As long as it's secure, you can't have it loose like it was with that bolt. Nice little upgrade, Anthony, but it didn't work out, you know. Remember, Toyota are the engineers, we're just the parts fitters. Well, hopefully with a brain that we can figure some stuff out. But okay, so I was going to say it didn't quite feel how I wanted it to feel. Okay, that's beautiful, right? Other than putting the wheel on and checking over a few nuts and bolts, that is basically complete putting the rotor. It doesn't look the best. You've got to clean it all up, you know, some dodgy paint work, whatever. Don't worry about our paint work, you know, it was a quick just to tidy it up a little bit. But yeah, we'll clean all this up, check the bolts on the calipers, we're going to check the brake line, bleed the brakes of course, that ABS line's already done, we're going to check the 4 main nuts that hold the axle in. So that's this side done. Once again, thanks for watching this video. If you haven't subscribed, hit the button, otherwise you're going to miss out on the next important videos, and turn the notifications on. You're just going to fall behind even further. Go back, and we've got hundreds of videos up. Go back and have a look at some of the other ones because there's a lot of really important information. So far we did one removing the 2 axles. That's all in one video. We've got one video putting the brake shoe assembly, the axle back in and the brake shoe assembly back together. That's kind of, I suppose you could say, part 2. We'll call it part 2. This is maybe part 3. We'll see. I haven't worked it out yet. You know, we're not that organised. And we'll do the other side as well. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. See ya.